Most people treat cardio like the enemy of muscle growth, and that belief quietly limits their progress. The problem starts with a simple assumption. If cardio burns calories, it must reduce muscle. That sounds logical, but it ignores how the body actually regulates growth. Muscle is not built from avoiding energy expenditure, it is built from managing it. When you perform resistance training, you create a signal for growth. That signal depends on sufficient energy availability and recovery. Cardio only becomes a problem when it disrupts that balance, not when it exists. At the physiological level, the concern comes from what researchers call the interference effect. This refers to the idea that endurance and strength adaptations may compete. However, large-scale evidence does not support the extreme version of this fear. A meta-analysis led by Brad Schoenfeld concluded that concurrent training has minimal impact on muscle growth when volume and intensity are controlled. The key phrase here is controlled. When cardio volume becomes excessive, or when it is performed at high intensity too frequently, the body shifts resources toward endurance adaptation. That shift increases fatigue and reduces the quality of your strength sessions. The consequence is not direct muscle loss. The real issue is reduced training performance. You lift less weight, you generate less mechanical tension, and over time, your growth signal weakens. This is where most people misinterpret the situation. They blame cardio itself when the actual problem is poor programming. Cardio is not removing muscle, it is interfering with your ability to train effectively when misused. The solution is precise integration. Cardio should be treated like any other training variable. It needs dosage, timing, and intent. When you manage intensity and total workload, cardio does not kill gains. It supports overall capacity. If you currently avoid cardio out of fear, reconsider that position. The question is not whether cardio belongs in your program, but how intelligently you apply it. As you move deeper into the physiology, the real tension appears at the cellular level, where two competing signals begin to shape your results. The problem is not just doing cardio, it is how that cardio interacts with the molecular pathways responsible for muscle growth. Resistance training activates a pathway called mTOR, which drives protein synthesis and hypertrophy. Cardio, especially when intense or prolonged, activates AMPK, a pathway linked to energy conservation and endurance adaptation. These two systems do not cancel each other out, but they do compete for priority when stress is high. The mechanism becomes critical when both signals are elevated at the same time. High levels of AMPK can suppress mTOR activity, meaning the growth signal from your lifting session becomes weaker. This is not theory. Research published in the Journal of Physiology shows that excessive endurance training can reduce markers of protein synthesis when performed too close to resistance work. The body is making a decision based on survival efficiency. If energy demand is high and continuous, it prioritizes endurance over growth. The consequence is subtle but significant. You may still be training hard, but your body is not responding at full capacity. Strength progression slows, muscle gain plateaus, and fatigue accumulates faster than expected. Over time, this creates the illusion that you have reached your genetic limit, when in reality, your programming is conflicting at the cellular level. This is where many intermediate lifters get stuck. The solution is strategic separation and intensity control. Keep high-intensity cardio away from your lifting sessions by at least several hours, ideally on separate days. Even better, limit most of your cardio to lower intensity work that does not heavily activate AMPK. This preserves the integrity of your mTOR signaling while still giving you cardiovascular benefits. Timing is not a minor detail here, it is the difference between adaptation and interference. When you respect this interaction, you stop competing against your own biology and start using it to your advantage. What most lifters fail to see is that avoiding cardio entirely creates a different, slower problem that only shows up over time. The immediate focus is always muscle size, but growth does not happen in isolation. It depends on how efficiently your body can deliver nutrients, clear fatigue, and sustain repeated high-quality training sessions. When cardio is removed, that system begins to degrade. The mechanism is rooted in cardiovascular efficiency. Your heart, blood vessels, and mitochondrial density determine how well oxygen and nutrients reach working muscle. Without regular aerobic stimulus, stroke volume decreases, capillary density stagnates, and mitochondrial function declines. This directly limits your ability to recover between sets and between sessions. Research from the American College of Sports Medicine shows that improved aerobic fitness enhances recovery, kinetics, and work capacity, even in resistance-trained individuals. In simple terms, better conditioning allows you to do more high-quality work. The consequence is a ceiling on progression. You enter a session already fatigued, your rest periods become longer, and your performance drops earlier in the workout. Over weeks, this reduces total training volume, which is one of the primary drivers of hypertrophy. The long-term cost is not just slower gains, it is missed potential. Many lifters believe they need more intensity or more advanced programs when the real limitation is their inability to sustain effort. This is where the fear of cardio quietly backfires. The solution is to reframe cardio as a recovery amplifier rather than a calorie-burning tool. Low-intensity aerobic work improves circulation, accelerates waste removal, and enhances parasympathetic activity after training. This leads to faster recovery and more consistent performance. When used correctly, cardio does not compete with muscle growth. It expands your capacity to support it. The absence of cardio is not neutral. It is a constraint that accumulates over time. The final step is understanding that cardio is not something you tolerate. It is something you deploy with precision to support muscle growth. The problem is not whether to include cardio, it is the lack of structure in how it is used. Most people either overdo high-intensity work or avoid cardio completely, and both approaches lead to the same outcome: reduced long-term progress. What matters is aligning cardio with the goal of hypertrophy instead of letting it compete with it. The mechanism is straightforward when simplified. Low-intensity cardio primarily stresses the aerobic system without significantly activating AMPK to the level that interferes with mTOR. This allows you to improve blood flow, mitochondrial efficiency, and recovery capacity without blunting the growth signal from resistance training. Guidelines from the World Health Organization recommend moderate aerobic activity for overall health, but when applied to hypertrophy, the intensity must stay controlled. Around 60 to 70% of maximum heart rate is the range where benefits accumulate with minimal interference. The consequence of applying this correctly is measurable. You recover faster between sets, maintain higher training volume, and sustain performance across the week. Over time, this leads to more consistent progressive overload, which is the true driver of muscle growth. Instead of feeling drained, you feel more prepared for each session. This is the shift from conflict to synergy. The solution is a clear framework. Add 2 to 3 sessions of low-intensity cardio per week, each lasting 20 to 40 minutes. Place them after lifting sessions or on separate days to avoid overlap with strength performance. Keep high-intensity cardio limited and away from lower body training days when possible. Monitor your performance in the gym, not just your fatigue, because performance is the true indicator of whether your system is working. If you apply this structure, cardio stops being a threat and becomes a tool. Start with 2 sessions this week at controlled intensity, track your recovery, and adjust only if performance declines.